Srimad Bhagavatam 4:30-45. ततोऽग्निमारुतौ राजन् अमुञ्चन्मुखतो रुषा महीं निर्विरुधं कर्तुं संवर्तक इवात्यये। Tatah, thereafter, Agni, fire, Marutau, and air, Rajan, O king, Amunchan, they emitted, Mukhatah, from their mouths, Rusha, out of anger, Mahim, the earth, Nirvirutham, treeless, Kartum, to make, Samvartaka, the fire of devastation, Iva, like, Atyaye, at the time of devastation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: My dear king, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth out of anger to make the surface of the earth completely treeless. The Prachitas also emitted fire and air from their mouths. Please repeat: My dear king, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth out of anger to make the surface of earth completely treeless. The Prachetas also emitted fire and air from their mouths. Purport. In this verse, Vidura is addressed as Rajan, which means O king. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that a Dhira never becomes angry because he is always situated in devotional service. Advanced devotees can control their senses. Therefore, a devotee can be addressed as Rajan. A king controls and rules in various ways among citizens. Similarly, one who can control his senses is the king of his senses. He is a Swami or Goswami. The Swamis and Goswamis are therefore sometimes addressed as Maharaj or king. Go to the next verse. 4:30-46. Bhasmasat kriyamaణāṃ stān drumān vīkṣya pitāmahah āgatah shamayāmāsa putrān barhishmato nayaihi. After seeing that all the trees on the surface of the earth were being turned to ashes, Lord Brahma immediately came to the sons of King Barhishman and pacified them with words of logic. Purport. Whenever there is some uncommon occurrence on any planet, Lord Brahma, being in charge of the whole universe, immediately comes to control the situation. Lord Brahma also came when Hiranyakashipu underwent severe penances and austerities and made the whole universe tremble. A responsible man in any establishment is always alert to keep peace and harmony within the establishment. Similarly, Lord Brahma is also allowed to keep peace and harmony within this universe. He consequently pacified the sons of King Barhishman with good logic. So we'll read until this 47. 4:30-47. तत्रावशिष्टा ये वृक्षा भीता दुहितरं तदा उज्जहरुस्ते प्रचेतोभ्य upadishtaah swayambhuva. The remaining trees, being very much afraid of the prachetas, immediately delivered their daughter at the advice of Lord Brahma. Purport. The daughter of the trees is referred to in text 13 of this chapter. This daughter was born of Kandu and Pramlocha. The society girl Pramlocha, after giving birth to the child, immediately left for the heavenly kingdom. While the child was crying, the king of the moon took compassion upon her and saved her by putting his finger into her mouth. This child was cared for by the trees, and when she grew up, by the order of Lord Brahma, she was delivered to the prachetas as their wife. The name of the girl was Marisha, as the next verse will explain. It was the predominating deity of the trees that delivered the daughter. In this connection, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada states, Vrikshaha tat adhishtatra devataha. The trees means the controlling deity of those trees. In Vedic literatures, we find that there is a controlling deity of the water. Similarly, there is a controlling deity of the trees. The prachetas were engaged in burning all the trees to ashes, and they considered the trees their enemies. To pacify the prachetas, the predominating deity of the trees, under the advice of Lord Brahma, delivered the daughter Marisha. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So we have read in the last verse that after coming out of the ocean where they did the austerities and saw Lord Vishnu disappeared, and to increase their love, and then they were not satisfied. Atripta, what is that? Atripta Lochana. That means they were not satisfied in seeing the Lord, in the sense that seeing the Lord for just a few minutes was not enough. In fact, the gopis danced in the Ras Leela for one night on earth, but the actual duration they danced was one night of Brahma. Kṛṣṇa fit that amount of time into one earthly night. So one night of Brahma will equal 4.32 billion years. But after that was finished, they said, oh, it's all over, that's all, like that. So that is the ecstasy in Krishna consciousness, that in separation from Krishna, a moment will feel like a yuga, yugayitam nimeshana, and in the presence of Krishna, nimisham yugayana, one moment will appear, or one yuga will appear like one moment. So it is natural that when one is happy, time appears to go very fast, and when one is in pain, then it seems to go slower. So of course the pain of separation from Krishna is actually a form of ecstasy. In fact, it is an ecstasy greater than that of meeting Krishna. Radharani once said, it says there in the Paddyavali, 260th verse, I think. What is that? No, not this. I think 240. Sangama viraha vikalpe varamiha viraho na sangamantasya ekah sa eva sange tribhuvanamapi tanmayam virahe. Separation from Krishna is better than meeting him. When I meet him, there is only one Krishna. But when I am separated from him, the three worlds become filled with Krishnas. So, wherever the devotee sees, he sees only Krishna. Whereas when Krishna is there, she can see him only in front of him, or in front of her. So in this way, atripta lochana, the eyes were not satisfied. So anyway, they came out to rule the earth, because their father, Prachina Barhishat, was preached to by Narada Muni when these sons were doing tapasya, brahmacharya life. So father was ruling the world, and the sons were doing tapasya as brahmacharis, and they did not complete yet their tapasya. They were still doing. But Narada Muni came to preach to the father, Prachina Barhi, and hearing all the instructions, Prachina Barhi did not even wait for his sons to return and then give up the kingdom. He gave up the kingdom. He just left some orders for his sons how to rule. That's it. And he did not wait for them to come back. Oh, I miss my sons, I will never see them again. Okay, let me see for the last time, and go. Nothing. He just left. Similarly, Bharat Maharaj also left. It is said in the 5th canto, Bharat Maharaj left his opulent kingdom, beautiful wife, obedient children, an unparalleled kingdom, or unrivaled kingdom rather. He left all of that as if it was stool. Maybe there is a verse. Hmm. 5:14:43 Yodustyajan dārasūtān suhridrajyam hridisprishaha jahau yuvaiva malavad uttama shloka lalasah. Very nice. Uttama shloka lalasa. Lalasa means greed. So fond. While in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was so fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and an enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up just as one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of His Majesty. So this is the effect of devotional service. Vairagya Vidya Nijabhakti Yoga Siksharthameka Purusha Purana Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Shariradhari Kripambudhiryas Tamaham Prapadye. If one has the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, then the devotional service that is bestowed by Lord Chaitanya involves Vairagya and Vidya. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. This is a very often quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada. You should all learn this by heart. 127 of Srimad Bhagavatam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. If I am advancing in bhakti and I am not getting any vairagya, I am not getting any virakti. Virakti means disgust for material life. So, if we are not getting virakti for material life, then we are not advancing actually. I may make a show of bhajan and sadhan, but if I am, that's why there is a Bengali proverb, bhajan karo, sadhan karo, murti janle hoy. One may make a great show of devotional service. Whether one is making a show or not will be tested at the time of death. Because while living I can fool people that I am a great devotee. But it will all be tested at the time of death. With Yamaraj we cannot play a fool. He is not going to be fooled by our show. At the time of death, if you are really just like a student, he can cheat. He can make a show in front of the teacher that as if he is studying, but he is actually watching something and doing something. He can make a show in front of his parents. He can make a show, but everything will be tested at when the final exam. At that time, he cannot do anything. Of course, they used to cheat, but now he is becoming more and more stringent. But with maybe even here we can cheat in the exam, but with Kṛṣṇa and Yamaraj we cannot cheat. So it is better to be sincere from day one, and otherwise we are fooling ourselves. We think we are fooling somebody else and while I am enjoying, but actually I am fooling myself. So it is a suicidal policy. So one has to just be sincere. So if one is sincere, then he will get vairagya or virakti. One will be disinterested in material life. That is a symptom. So Prachina Barhi, he was a great king, very pious. He did so much pious activity. In fact, he did so much pious activity that there is no end to his enjoyment. But Narad Muni convinced him this is useless and preached to him about devotional service so strongly that he did not even wait for his sons to return. He left. And so what happened? There was a gap in time while the sons were still meditating and the king was gone, left to the forest. So there was a gap. So when the prachetas, they came out, the sons, the 10 sons, they came out of the water, they were meditating under the water. So when they came out after seeing Lord Vishnu, and they saw the whole earth was covered full with trees, completely overgrown. The trees were overgrown. And the trees were so tall and completely covered, so much so that the entire earth was in darkness from that foliage. Dense forests. Desert is not good, but dense forest is also not good. There has to be a balance. Dense forest is good, not that whole earth must be dense forest. So why were the we have discussed this in the last class. Why were the prachetas very angry by looking at trees? What did the trees do? They were angry at the mismanagement of human society. If human society is managed properly, there will be agriculture, agricultural land, there will be pastures, there will be forests also, but there will be agricultural land also. And then there will be cities where temples will be constructed, people can congregate, and they can advance in spiritual life in the association of saintly devotees. There has to be a structure in human society. Not that everything is forest or everything is desert. By interfering too much with the material nature, now what is happening? The scientists are interfering too much with the nature, and everything is becoming a problem. And if we don't at all interact, that's another side of that is laziness. One should interact with the material nature as much as is necessary and organize life in such a way that spiritual advancement can be advanced in the society, can be promoted. So when that is not there, then there is no cities, there is no structure, there is no agriculture, there is no varnashram. So this is what angered the prachetas. How come these trees have completely covered what is this? Then they burned the trees. So much so that it created a disturbance. They burned all the whole trees. Nirvirutham. Virudha means trees. When there is Krishna's grace on the human civilization or over the material nature as a whole, then this will be the condition of the world. Kunti Devi is saying, Ime janapadaha svriddhaha supakvaushadhi virudhaha virudha. Today the verse is nirvirutham, means no virudha, no trees. Here supakvaushadhi virudhaha vanadrinadyudanmanto hi edhante tavavikshitaihi. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans are full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them. So these are the gifts of the Lord, natural gifts. Minerals in the hills and rivers are flowing, not that they're dammed up and that's not proper usage. They think to provide water for the irrigation, they will need to dam up the rivers, and in the process, let us produce some electricity also. But actually, such things are not necessary. Huge infrastructure to construct a dam, and it actually creates a problem in the fertile nature of the land. Rather, the real way for irrigation, for rains to come, is yajna process. Just by chanting Hare Krishna, all those millions of dollars used to construct a dam can be foregone. We think water supply can be done with human intervention, and they try to do. I was in school, I think all of you can relate. We learned about drip irrigation system and this irrigation system, sprinklers and all this, little bit. So, irrigation is actually done by the Lord anyway. And especially, so this is explained why there is drought, why there is famine. It's because, yes, we know the immediate cause, yes, there is no rain. But why there is no rain? Because there is no yajna. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajnah karma samudbhavaha. Annad bhavanti bhutani. All living bodies subsist on food grains. This is basics, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Now, we can see rain every time Singapore is raining. Where is the yajna? Of course, here there is yajna going on in our place. It's not that here everybody is very fortunate, or Fortunate means with the yajna, with the rains, what is happening? There is no agriculture that is happening. Either there is rain and there is no agricultural system because of an atheistic civilization, or there is attempt to do agriculture and then there is no rain. Of course, there are patterns of climate changes, like seasonal changes, but not all seasons are the same. So what determines the differences? There is a meteorological department giving weather forecast. But we can ensure weather. Ensure weather by yajna process. You see here, rains are produced by performance of yajna. Too much rain is also not good. Ativrishti and anavrishti, both are not good. Too much rain or too less rain, both are not good. Just the right amount of rain, just at the right time, in the right place. So that kind of balance is not within our control. So they make contingency plans with irrigation system, this and that, but it is very laborious, unnecessary. Ugra karma gives rise to ugra karma, horrible work. You know how many people are required to construct that? They glorify such projects by saying, "Oh, we are giving jobs to people." The Shudras, see, the Brahmanas, if they do yajna, there will be enough rain. There is no need of the Shudras constructing some irrigation system or some dam or all these things, canals. No needed. There's no need. So, but people are not trained as Brahmanas. So, artificial. They think, manipulate something, adjust here, adjust there. We'll do this, we'll do that. But all problems can be solved simply by chanting. And the yajna process is very simple in Kali Yuga. Sankirtan yajna. Yajna sankirtana prayar yajanti hi sumedhasaha. Just to open a mouth and chant. That's it. We are trying to construct a temple which is some $12 million for the land and another 6-7 million for the construction, whatever, 5 to 7. Say roughly about $20 million. Now, if you see all kind of infrastructure projects that are going on and which are totally unnecessary in many ways, hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of dollars are spent in those projects. But this project, they are not interested. Government funding is there for all kinds of projects, but temple building project. Whereas the real government should actually fund this one first. The Varnashram system is there, Samsiddhir Haritoshanam, Atah Pumbir Dvija Sreshtha Varnashrama Vibhagasha, Swanushtitasya Dharmasya, Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. The duty of the government is to please the Lord, not anybody else. And when the Lord is pleased, everybody will be pleased. So the government, the king has to organize the citizens into Varnashram, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, not to discriminate, but to cooperate. The head, legs, arms, stomach, everything is needed. Not that only head is needed. With head, what are you going to do? Head without body, what is that? Dead. That is not head, that is dead. So, we need all parts of the body for cooperation. The head does not, ridicule the legs. No. So, a proper Varnashram is to be brought back. Then only and what is the use of all that? Or what is the purpose of all that? Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. See. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the personality of Godhead. Caste divisions are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, social division. The spiritual division is Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Brahmacharya, Grahastha. Brahmachari is the one who is following. Brahmacharya is the ashram. Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. So, these are ashram stages of life. So, 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders. This is Varna and Ashrama, divisions. And all this is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So a real human civilization should have these aspects. There has to be Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. When the Prachetas came out and saw, they saw that there was nothing. The trees were there, until the sky, like the skyscrapers, there was a tree. Tall trees. That means humans were neglecting their duties. And they were angry with that. And that should be the point of anger for a ruler or any leader, whether in a country or in an institution like ours. They have to set right. And they were trying with too much anger. They reacted too much, overreacted to the point that Brahma himself, came down and managed the situation. So let's go back to today's. So, first point in today's verse was Vidura was addressed as Rajan. So, a very nice explanation is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. That Rajan means king, and this body is like a city. Navadvara Pure Dehi. It is explained in Bhagavad Gita, I think 5:13. सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन्. Navadvare Pure Dehi, a city with 9 gates. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So this body is compared to a city of 9 gates. So 9 gates are the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, 4, mouth, 5, ears, 7, the genitals and the anus, 9. So this is a city of 9 gates. So a person is supposed to be the king inside the city. But a king must be ruling his city. Not that he is ruled by the city citizens. So, a Maharaj, why sannyasi is called Maharaj? Because he is supposed to have conquered his senses. And what does the conquering senses means? Vacho vegam manasah krodha vegam jihva vegam udaropastha vegam etan veganyo vishaheta dhirah sarvam apimam prithivim sasishyat. So some urges are mentioned here. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak. We all want to speak something, some gossip, meaningless chatter. So if we can tolerate that by speaking only about Kṛṣṇa, the mind's demands, the mind, don't even talk about it. It is said, I think how many thousands of thoughts are there in one day. And mind's demands are like nobody's business. It's just going raving around. So how to conquer that? Not by artificially stopping the mind from thinking all these things, but connecting them, all of them, with Kṛṣṇa and using everything in Kṛṣṇa's service, so that whatever we see reminds us of Kṛṣṇa. And how to engage it in Kṛṣṇa's service. That should be the consciousness. It is not forbidden for us to see. We are not into Mauna Vrata and shutting off all the senses. Meditation should not be confined only to a sitting posture and closed eyes. No. Meditation should be there all the time, whether one is closed eyes or open eyes. That is real meditation. That means even if one is seeing, one has to see everything in relation with Krishna. But how to see like this? Of course, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. There is this highest stage where a devotee constantly sees Krishna everywhere. How? With love. Just like we have said that, showed that verse from Padyavali. What is that? Compared to meeting and separation from Krishna, separation is better, because if I meet Krishna, we will see only him in one place, but when we separate from him, everywhere is Krishna. So I want to see Krishna everywhere. Radharani is talking like this. So one has to see Krishna everywhere. That is prema. At that stage one can see. But now we are not there. So how? How to start about doing that? That's why Krishna, he himself instructs in the Bhagavad Gita, and we have been discussing those verses in the last few classes. He said, I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the pranava om. I am the sound in ether, ability in man. So how to see Krishna everywhere? How to employ everything in Krishna's service? Everything is there in the Bhagavad Gita. If you read closely, everything is there. So he is giving us instructions how to see everything connected with Krishna. So that is how we reduce the mind's demands. And that starts with following the order of the spiritual master. Now we cannot simply read Bhagavad Gita and think about Krishna. We have to have some sadhana. You should have some qualification. Krishna said, I am speaking to you, Arjuna, because you are my devotee, and therefore you can understand this rahasya, secret. But the same thing another person cannot understand. The same Bhagavad Gita is read by Mayavadis also. Other than devotees, there are so many people who are reading Bhagavad Gita, but they are not understanding it the same way as we do. Why? Because it's taken shelter of pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. So, unless it is explained by a pure devotee, we cannot understand the statements of Shastra. So, in the statements of the Shastras is the first instruction how to remember Krishna all the time. Everything should remind us of Krishna. In fact, if you see, there are so many examples in verses. For example, let's take a very simple verse. Everybody knows. I hope everybody knows. Everybody should know, at least. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naropārāṇi tatha sharirāṇi vihaya jirnani anyāni samyāti navani dehi. Every devotee should know this verse. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So this is an analogy. Now, whenever we see clothes, we can remember reincarnation and this birth and death cycle, this samsara, and how to come out of it. Oh, we have to chant Hare Krishna. Clothes also can remind us. Now, of course, in 7th chapter, Krishna is saying, I am the taste of the water and this and that. But in these examples itself, these are common day examples. There is the example of the tortoise, Yada samharat echayam kurmongani vasarvashaha indriyarthan. What is that? No. Indriyanindriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratisthita. 258. Tortoise. It can bring out its legs and bring in. So a Goswami, a person who is a Maharaj like Vidura, Rajan. Raj means he can control. He is the king. He calls the shots. When he wants to employ his senses, he will be able to employ. When he wants to withdraw, he will withdraw. So he will engage with the material world as much as is necessary for Krishna's service, otherwise he is withdrawn. That perfect control is there. Whereas, this is the case of those who are not controlled. Where is that? You see, here, there is an interesting thing. The what is that? characteristics of the three modes, of behavior in three modes, is mentioned here. 11:25, 2 to 5, but especially the verse number 3, I guess. 3 or 4 maybe. Yeah. These are the qualities of persons who are in the three modes. What are the qualities of a person in the mode of goodness? Sattvic person, what is his qualities? Rajasic person, what is his qualities? Tamasic person, what are his qualities? So now, let's see. Mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination. Discrimination means what? Not that, I will discriminate. Shudra, rascal. Not discrimination. Discrimination means to understand what is right and what is wrong. Sense of discrimination. That means it's a sign of intelligence, basically. So mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future. Interesting. That's why we have past, itihasa, Ramayana, Mahabharata. Purana. Purana means what? Old. Purana means old. So these are old historical accounts. Why are we studying history? What are we studying in this Bhagavatam class? History. This is a history class. But in this history there is science, there is everything, spiritual science, everything. Because if we understand the past, especially worthy history, Purana, Itihas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, it's not just any history. Our textbook history, we learn some Aurangzeb, some fellow here and there. What is the use of this? Somebody who destroyed culture, what is the use? British occupation of India, some freedom fighter who is again on a bodily concept. So this is the history that is there now. But real history, worthy history, is Prahlad Maharaj. Happened millions of years ago. Or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur, or even spanning Brahma, Narada, Shiva. All these histories. A careful study of the past and future. So if we know that, then we know the future also. If we know this, that's why the spiritual life, spiritual knowledge is eternal. It is not simply we are studying history or something, we are talking about the past. Whatever is applicable to Prahlad Maharaj or Arjuna or Haridas Thakur or Six Goswamis is all applicable to us. Evergreen teachings. So careful study of the past and future. Satisfaction in any condition. Not that only if I am comfortable I am happy, otherwise I am not. No. Just yesterday I was watching this video of Prabhupada when he went to America. How uncomfortable the situation was. Cold, one thing. No money, next. And when he was preaching to the early group of devotees, they had zero money, nothing. You know what they were eating? What sabji Prabhupada was making? Watermelon rinds. Watermelon was very cheap. So they would cut a watermelon and distribute. That skin, hard shell, they will make sabji with that one. Prabhupada used to make sabji with the watermelon rind. He did not complain. Satisfaction in any condition. Generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action. Charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are qualities of the mode of goodness. So a sattvic person, a person who is in the mode of goodness, should have these qualities. Now, material desire, great endeavor, audacity. Audacity means no humility, just too bold when we are not supposed to be bold. It's like it is said, one has to be a lamb inside the temple and lion outside. You should preach like a lion outside, but in the temple you should be like a lamb, humble. Not that one is like a lion in the temple, roaring at all the devotees, and outside he is like a lamb, becoming a bakra outside. No. Audacity. So dissatisfaction even in gain. Even after gaining, you still dissatisfied. False pride. Praying for material advancement. Considering oneself different and better than others. sense gratification, rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess and justifying one's actions by one's strength. How to justify one's actions? By Guru Sadhu Shastra, not by one's influence, not by one's, we have to justify our actions with this, not by some brute force. That means we have to toe the line of the scripture, Guru Sadhu Shastra. We cannot be independent. Tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's prowess and justifying one's actions by one's strength and qualities are qualities of the mode of passion. No, actually, this is not the one. There is another one. But anyway, we can get an idea. Okay, let's see the what is that? Ignorance also. Intolerant anger, stinginess. Don't want to. They are not charitable. Stingy. Speaking without scriptural authority, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, chronic fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear and laziness constitute the major qualities of the mode of ignorance. Now, please hear about the combination of these three modes. Now, there is another verse which says, we cannot remove ourselves from the objects of the senses. There is one verse like that. I don't remember. You can know, you used to show one verse where mode of passion unable to remove himself from the sense gratification. Unable to I thought this was the verse, but this was not the verse. Anyway, so Goswami means is like the tortoise. He can control. Whenever he wants, he will withdraw, and whenever he wants, he will exhibit. So this is Maharaja, Rajan. Vidura was called Rajan because he actually politically and physically he was not a Rajan, because he was a maidservant's son. Although he was the brother of the Pandu and Dhritarashtra, he was not a king, but he was addressed as a king because of his spiritual quality. There is a Christian saying, what profiteth a man who has gained the whole world but has lost his eternal soul? What profiteth a man? So, what is the profit if one can gain the whole world? Alexander the Great, they say. What great? The real great conqueror is he who has conquered his senses. Otherwise, like Hiranyakashipu, he conquered the entire universe. Still he was not happy. He was always angry and this and that. He was not satisfied. His senses were uncontrolled. That is the thing. Vamanadev said an important thing to Bali Maharaj. He said, I want 3 pieces of land. I want that much land, because he came to the sacrificial arena where Bali Maharaj was doing Ashwamedha Yajna. Now, the king should give charity to Brahmanas, and he was the most effulgent Brahmana in the whole scene, in the whole arena. All other Brahmanas' tejas was diminished by Vamanadev's tejas. So, nobody could ignore noticing him. So bright. Then Bali Maharaj asked, what can I give you in charity? He said, I want land enough for my foot to 3 feet worth of land. That much is enough. And he was Vaman. Vaman means what? Dwarf. And dwarf's feet are very small. I want this much. So Bali Maharaj felt insulted. You have come to the owner of the 3 worlds and you are asking 3 steps? What is this? You think I am insufficient to give you charity, that's why you are asking me small charity? He was angry, he was a bit taken aback, because he wanted to be more charitable than that. So Vamanadev fulfilled his desire. But then, before he did that, he said something. He said, if I can't be satisfied with 3 steps of land, I can't be satisfied with the 3 worlds. Vamanadev said. So that's a fact. Brahmana should live like that. If we can't be satisfied with 3 steps of land, I can't be satisfied with 3 worlds. What verse is that? Eight. So, Prabhu is saying excessive greed. Brahmana, if he shows excessive greed, then he will fall down. Seven 15-19. असंतुष्टस्य विप्रस्य तेजो विद्या तपो यशः स्रवन्तीन्द्रियलौल्येन ज्ञानं चैवा वकीर्यते. असंतुष्टस्य विप्रस्य. Because of greed for the sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, education, austerity and reputation of a devotee or brahmana who is not self-satisfied dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. Wow, this is very, very nice. A brahmana who has greed for the sake of senses, spiritual strength, education, austerity, reputation, everything dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. It's true. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam dayapahrita chetasam vyavasayatmaka buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. And the opposite is exactly what pleases the Lord. 4:31-19. See, dayaya sarva bhuteshu santushtya yena kena va sarvendriyopashantya cha tushyatyasu janardana. 3 things, if we do, it will satisfy the Lord. What is that? Dayaya sarva bhuteshu, to have mercy upon all living entities who are suffering in this world. By showing mercy to all living entities, number 1. Being satisfied somehow or other. Santushtya yena kenava. Satisfied in any condition. And sarvendriya upashantyacha. Sarva indriya upashantyacha. And controlling the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita also he says these things. Here. Samah shatrau cha mitre cha tatha manapamanayoh shitoshna sukha dukkheshu samah sanga vivarjitah tulya nindastu tirmauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa sthiramatir bhaktiman me priyo narah. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from the contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. So this is not possible for a person who is attached to the senses. For a person who is attached to the senses, he cannot do this. He will be agitated at an uncomfortable situation. So Rajan, Vidura was addressed as Rajan because of this. And it is not just a word in a shloka, but we should understand what is the standard of a devotee. We are reading these things so that we can evaluate ourselves. Where am I in this whole thing? how much of a Rajan I am, how much of a Goswami. Will I be agitated? So we have to evaluate it. This is called introspection. We are not just hearing, Vidura was called Rajan. Okay, good. Fine. Next. No. These are all has to be internalized. We have to understand where we are. So this is why we have to. This is how we have to read, contemplate on everything, and how I can improve, so that I can have this quality. I should know that I should not be too much complaining about everything. This and that. We are here for our character reformation. Why are we in devotional service? What are we doing? Material world, here we are put because we wanted some desires and Krishna has given facility. But he has also given the scriptures and this whole, the Acharyas, he himself comes, the religious system he has given to reform ourselves. And we are here for reformation. So if these histories, these all are mentioned here, there are lessons to learn from each of these verses. That's why we are here. We have to learn lessons from here. Not just to, Prachetas did this, Prachina Varishad did that, Narada did this, Brahma did that. That is yes. But then what lessons we have to learn from these things? Tato agne marutav rajan namunchan mukhato rusha mahim nirvirudham kartum samvartaka ivatya. This samvartaka means the devastation. So first of all, there will be a great fire, and then there will be a rain. 100 years fire and 100 years rain. So samvartaka fire and samvartaka cloud will come. They will destroy the entire universe. So in the same way, they also did. So anything to do with destruction, it is called a Rudra Principle. Rusha. This Rusha, in I think in Tamil, Telugu also, Rosham. Rosham means anger. It's the pride that fuels the anger from within. It is called Rosham. That ego which is hurt. So this is the word Rusha. Rusha means anger. And fire was emanating from their mouth. But in this case, they were not, the trees did nothing to them, but they were upset that, there was a complete negligence on the part of the human society, and everything went out of control. So, bhasmatat kriyamanam stan druman viksha pitamaha. So, virudha means trees. Another word for trees is druman. Another word is padapa. Padapa means, panam, drinking. Padapa means they drink from the feet. An organism which drinks from the feet is called a padapa. Trees are called therefore padapa. Druman also means trees. Viksha pitamaha. Yeah, that's what I said. After seeing that all the trees on the surface of the earth were being burned or turned to ashes, Lord Brahma immediately came to the sons of King Barhishma and pacified them with words of logic. Now here, another thing we can learn. Whenever there is some uncommon occurrence on any planet, Lord Brahma, being in charge, immediately comes to control the situation. So when Hiranyakashipu did that, he came, when he was doing severe tapasya, he came. So a responsible man in any establishment is always alert to keep peace and harmony within the establishment. This is very, very important. Similarly, Lord Brahma is also allowed to keep peace and harmony within this universe. Now, ours is an establishment. Our movement is an establishment. Hey, stop running. It's not some playground. You play upstairs if you want. Kids. All the kids can go upstairs. So this is an establishment. Our movement, our temple is an establishment. Now, a responsible man in any establishment is always alert to keep peace and harmony within the establishment. Now, how to keep peace and harmony in our establishment? Ours is a temple, right? Ours is a spiritual movement. That's what happens. So, ours is an establishment. How to keep peace within this establishment? Not by artificial means. Not just being smiling and friendly and that's all. No. Because we cannot take, if we have any peace, we cannot take that peace for granted. Oh, everybody is friendly, okay, fine. Good. No, we cannot take it for granted. Because when we are not in the mode of goodness, it is just waiting to happen. All chaos is waiting to unleash. All hell is waiting to break loose. Why? Because if we don't hear every time, you know how to keep peace within this establishment? By Shravan Kirtan process. That's all. Sankirtan is the method for peace. If we don't hear Prabhupada's books, if we don't read Prabhupada's books, if we don't attend classes every day, actually now that we have so many devotees are around the temple, we should have something in the evening. Because everybody is just in their homes or everybody is just divided and doing their own thing. We cannot come together like this. It is just, it will break one day. And something will happen, somebody will say something and somebody will get agitated. Because he is not thinking like a Vaishnava. Our thinking will not be like a Vaishnava if we don't understand what is the standard of a Vaishnava. You see Rajan, Santushtya Yena Kenava. I am unhappy because I am not Santushtya Yena Kenava. Oh, somebody said something to me. Somebody did not say something to me. Oh, they are not looking at me. Or they are looking too much into me. These will affect us when we are not Krishna conscious. If devotees are, looking at you, good for you. Why you should be agitated? And if nobody bothers about you, why should be agitated? Huh? We are supposed to be humbler than the grass. Trinada Pisunichana, why are we chanting that? If somebody steps on us, we should not protest. But if somebody just did not say something to us and we protest, what is our standard? And when we see the standard of a devotee here, from Bhagavatam, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, then we understand how does Vaishnava is not just behavior. Behavior is an index of what we think. Oh, we should behave properly. No. You should think properly. Then we will behave properly. If I don't think properly, I cannot make a show of behavior. Good behavior. Because it will come out. Whatever I am thinking will come out in my behavior, in my words. Vacho, manasa, vegam. What is that? Sorry. Tanu, vak, mano, bhir. Our mind, words and body, our actions. These will reflect our state of mind. In fact, there is one verse in the 4th chapter, I think 4th canto, 29th or 28th, I think, chapter, where it is said that the face is the index of the mind. Of course, we all know this in English, we have this thing. But that is explained in that. There is a verse for that. 4th canto. So, our thinking must be proper. We have to think like a Vaishnava. No need, no point, considering ourselves a Vaishnava if we have zero humility. Why are we thinking ourselves Vaishnava? That's why we should read. Why did I start that Vaishnava songs classes? And I don't want to discuss Radha Krishna songs. No. I want to discuss those songs where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur is saying, I am the most rascal of this world. The demons are better than me. They have gone back to Godhead. I am still here. Those are the songs I want to discuss. Why? Because that is what will actually help us at the state we are at in now. As if we are in Radha Krishna love. We are not. First of all, the very first step in spiritual life is to understand that I am a rascal. Unless and until I can accept the point that I am a rascal, spiritual life has not even started. And that's why we surrender to a spiritual master. I am a fool. Guru more murkho dekhi. Karilo shasan. Karilo shasan. Chastised me. Advaita Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, he was treated very well, very respectfully by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his servant, Kamalakanta Vishwas, was chastised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaita Prabhu felt very bad. Felt that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is chastising Kamalakanta Vishwas, but he is not chastising me. That means he is treating me like a distant person. Like if somebody guest comes to your house, you will treat him nicely. But your own child or you will deal a little bit, roughly maybe sometimes. So a distant person may be treated nicely. Own people may not be. So, but actually one has more affection for the family member than the outside person. Right? But his external behavior may be looking like that. That he is more nicer to the outside person than to the family member. So Advaita Prabhu, he said, no, you are taking Kamalakanta Vishwas as closer to you and I am distant. So he did something to get the attention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He preached Advaita philosophy, Mayavad philosophy. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know of this and he came and beat up Advaita Acharya. Then Advaita Acharya was happy. The point I am trying to make is we have to welcome chastisement as a means for our own advancement. And I should be ready to be chastised. I should not be ready to be praised. Praise is a poison. It will increase all kinds of bad qualities in ourselves. Pride, it will increase the pride. Praise is to be shunned by a devotee. You should be allergic to praise. You should eagerly accept criticism and chastisement. It's not that devotees will criticize, but when there is some correction, I have to accept it if I am wrong. So we should be Trinadapis. We are chanting these verses not for show. That's why I did those Strengthening Foundation series. We are singing Samsara Davanala, what is that, Sri Guru Charana Padma, Tulsi song, Sikshashtaka. We don't even know what we are chanting. Devotees just chant. And then repeat the translation also. Still nothing went inside. After 10 years, 20 years, nothing inside. Still seeking praise. What is the use of this Trinadapis Nichanathan verse chanting every morning? Why are we chanting these things? To remind ourselves. And if I don't remember, what is the use of chanting? What is the use of singing these prayers? So that is what we have to take away from these things. So if you see, this is the point. A responsible man in any establishment is always alert to keep peace and harmony. If we keep our spiritual sadhana intact, automatically there will be peace and harmony. So in our movement, the way to keep peace and harmony, Prabhupada always, when somebody came up with something, some complaint, Prabhupada always asked, are you chanting 16 rounds? Are you attending Mangalarti? Are you attending the classes? Morning, evening? Are you reading my books? Are you eating Kṛṣṇa Prasadam? These are the things he will ask. Because the problem is there, not the so-called problem that he is coming up with. That's not the real problem. Because Santushtya Yena Kyanam, a devotee won't have any problem actually, even in hell. Svargapavarga Narakeshu api tulyartha darshana. Whether he is liberated heaven or hell, it's all the same for him. Then why is he having a problem somewhere in the temple? That means he is the problem. If I am feeling problem in the temple, I am the problem. And if I feel that somebody is not following something, let me be the example and show. So we should not be discouraged by anything, and therefore we have to have regular classes. Now that quite a few devotees now are around the temple, have made the move, we should have this Shravan Kirtan process. At least in the evening. Morning, many devotees maybe cannot make it. But evening I think we should have something, at least short something, half an hour. We have a great service now, temple building project. But if we lose this Shravan Kirtan, I'm telling you, there will be factions, there will be strife, there will be fighting. It is inevitable if we give up this. There's no way we're going to not do Shravan Kirtan and be peaceful. We cannot. It's impossible. So that is the principle of unity that we are coming with I mean, we are all coming here together on that principle only, that we are trying to follow Prabhupada's instructions. And if somebody does not follow, he will be the one who will be causing all the problems. And if somebody is causing problems, I should not aggravate the problem by reacting to it adversely. I should know how to react. I should first of all not be too much concerned if somebody is, of course, if there is something to address, of course, management, there has to be, that's why Brahma came. Not Santushchayana Kyanava, let the earth be treeless and let me be happy, Brahma. He's concerned about the people who are living on the earth, and so he came down to set up the system right. So the leader should do that. But we should not wait until situations go until that far. Why? We are not here to wait for a calamity and when it happens and then address it. And that will be chaos already at the time. So from the beginning we have to start. We should not allow it to come in. It will take small things and eventually it will grow up into a big thing. So we should kill those things right in the beginning itself, and that will happen when we read these Prabhupada's books and reflect on ourselves, how we can improve ourselves. Vidura was called Rajan. Don't just leave it there. Try to understand what is the Rajan. What is it? So yes, we have heard many times. Yes, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, we have chanted those shloka many times, heard this many times, but it is always good reminder. As if I am self-realized. No, right? So it is always good reminder. Every time, every single time. So similarly, Lord Brahma is also allowed to establish. So he consequently pacified the sons of King Barhishman with good logic. And the pacifying also should be with good logic from the Shastras, So he has to be character. That's why Brahmanya Upashamashrayam, Guru, whether Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, he must be not only understanding Shastra, but he must be living in terms of the Shastra. The remaining trees, being very much afraid of the Prachetas, immediately delivered their daughter at the advice of Lord Brahma. So, of course, he is the daughter of the trees, they said, the presiding deity of the trees actually. But actually, she was the daughter of Kandu and Pramlocha. There was this, I think in the text 13, I think this is mentioned. Kandoh Pramlocha Yalabdha Kanya Kamalalochana Tam Chapavidham Jagrahur Bhuruha Nirpanandana. Sons of King Prachina Barhishat, the heavenly society girl named Pramlocha kept the lotus-eyed daughter of Kandu in the care of the forest trees. Then she went back to the heavenly planet. This daughter was born by the coupling of the Apsara named Pramlocha with the sage Kandu. Why this happened? This is Indra. Whenever this great sage undergoes severe austerities for material power, the king of heaven Indra becomes very envious. All the demigods have responsible posts for the management of universal affairs and are very highly qualified with pious activities. Although they are ordinary living entities, they are able to attain responsible posts like Lord Brahma, Indra, Chandra, Varuna. As is the nature of the material world, the king of heaven Indra is very anxious if a great sage undergoes severe austerities. The whole material world is filled with such envy that everyone becomes afraid of his neighbors. Every businessman is afraid of his associates because his material world is the field of activities for all kinds of envious people who have come here to compete with the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus Indra was very much afraid of the severe austerities performed by the great sage Kandu, and he sent Pramlocha to break his vows and austerities. A similar incident took place in the case of Vishwamitra. From other incidents in the Shastras, it appears that King Indra has always been envious. When King Prithu was celebrating various sacrifices, outdoing Indra, Indra became very envious and he disturbed King Prithu's sacrifice. This has already been discussed in previous chapters. King Indra became successful in breaking the vow of the great sage Kandu, who became attracted by the beauty of the heavenly society girl Pramlocha and begot a female child. This child is described herein as lotus-eyed and very beautiful. Being thus successful in her mission, Pramlocha returned to the heavenly planets, leaving the newborn child to the care of the trees. Fortunately, the trees accepted the child and agreed to raise her. So basically she was left in the forest. And so that's the history of, that's the story of that daughter. So the Brahma pacified them with, you have daughter, cool down. So there is Samadana, Bheda, Danda. So there are different ways of diplomacy. Diplomacy in one sense, that is, doing, what is that? Manipulative way of behavior. But other case of diplomacy is, if some agreement has to be reached between two disagreeable parties, some way must be there. So in this way, that these prachetas were very angry, pacify them. He said, you have this girl, the daughter of Pramlocha. Her name is Marisha. So that's today's verse. So any other points to add or any questions? So I think devotees can come in the evening. I think in that way some of the devotees can start giving class also. But we have a big project, not to forget that. Sometimes we may or may not be there, but maybe going outside for donation. But I think class should go on. At least half an hour, 45 minutes, something. Otherwise, the reading is going plummeting. And then just eating this verse. This verse. Jailila amrita vine khai jodi annapane tabe bhakter durbal jivan jaro ek bindu pane utfullita tanumane hase gaye koroya nartan. 25:278 Madhya. Man becomes strong and stout by eating sufficient grains. But the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Kṛṣṇa gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. Usually food will strengthen us, nourish us. But if you just eat and do nothing, no reading, no hearing, then you will become weak and fall down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom and he begins to laugh, sing and dance. Purport: all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure. You have to make it a mission to read, no matter what. We were going to book distribution, sometimes that, what is that? Deepavali fair. We used to come back at 1 and 1:30 sometimes. But I made it a point to read. Not bragging, but read and then sleep on. Even whatever it is, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, read something and then sleep. So, I have to keep that mission. For me it was, at least in the beginning, I wanted to just read all of Prabhupada's books, at least once. Of course, it's not enough. Even if you read 100 times, it's still not enough. But, at least that. But nowadays, many devotees haven't completed Bhagavad Gita. Science of Self-Realization haven't completed. How can we progress like this? How can we think like devotee? How can we behave like devotee? How can we become a devotee? Manmana, bhavamad bhakta, madhyaji, maam namaskuru. So, right, I'll stop it here then. Have any questions or comments? Oh, there is something in the comments. Divya Mataji. Just in this class, some children making noises and running over there while you were preaching. You initially instructed them not to do so or else go somewhere. But still they continued and you smiled as their children and continued preaching. You are not agitated. Here I need some guidance as they are children. It's easy for me to be equipoised even if there are disturbances while doing some devotional service. But like that, if elders create disturbances according to their mindset, how to be equipoised and be humbler than grass? Immediately one gets anger. How not to be agitated? So, yeah, that's the problem. Children excusable because they cannot understand. But if adults behave like that and create a problem, there will be quite a situation to deal with. That's why management means, like you see how Prabhupada, he was dealing with the Western people, devotees, but they were doing mistakes like, of course, they were just coming straight into this culture from their culture. So they had so many defects. Sometimes they did absolute crazy stuff. And Prabhupada, there was this story where, that devotee was there in some Europe, I think France or some temple president. He had sex with another devotee's wife and impregnated her. Temple president. How to deal with this kind of people? So Prabhupada dealt with it by punishing them and encouraging them at the same time. They have to be told. So the main thing is, the leader's duty is that we should understand that without Kṛṣṇa consciousness, it will come to this. Not that we should wait for things to happen and then, that person said like this, he's like that. Yeah, of course, people who don't take advice, they don't attend classes, they don't read at all, they will be a problem. They will be a problem for the other devotees. Without a doubt, they will cause problem. So therefore, if somebody cannot be talked to and he is behaving like that, then at least the rest we should read. We should see that and take that as an example. Try to correct him if possible. If not, then we just learn ourselves. And one day that so-called devotee will bloop. Means he will fall down. And that will be a lesson for the rest of the devotees. This is what happens when we don't read. There were devotees here, senior devotees, left. Why? Never touched the book in their life. Never touched the book in their life. That's why they left. Senior. Now they are competing, fighting. But it is not that we just condemn them and they are like that. No. Lesson to learn. How we cannot be like that. We should not be like that. Not that, they are rascals, yes, I am good devotee, yes. No. Success in spiritual life is not, I have done something, that's it. It's like I have attained a status. No. It will be tested every day. Every day it will be tested. And it's not like a certificate, like a material education. One paper came and then for the rest of my life, I am qualified as a so-called engineer, say computer engineer. But I don't remember anything what I have learned, but still my certificate is there, I am this qualification. If I don't know what I don't remember and know what I have learned, what is the use of this? Am I a computer engineer if I don't remember what I studied? So, it's a stupid certification. Certification means every day, whatever I have learned, it will be tested and can I pass the test or not? And as much as one becomes more senior, he should become more of a servant. The more senior one becomes, the more he should become servant, not the master. He should think of others' welfare. In the beginning, one is thinking about one's own advancement. And responsible means, senior means he should think of not only one's own advancement, but also others' advancement. How to elevate everyone to, proper standards of devotional service so that they will be happy. There will be no problems. And our thing is not to just fight problems. We have to be united and Inspiringly, we have to work towards pushing this movement. Preaching should be our center point in life. If we don't have preaching as our main goal, if our main goal is to work and maintain the family, and once in a while just associate with devotees and talk about little Kṛṣṇa a little bit and then go back. If I have no maksat in my life, if I don't know, I have to preach, I have to dedicate my life. This message should go everywhere. People are suffering. If I don't feel uncomfortable seeing people, suffering of the people, then I'm not a devotee. A devotee must feel uncomfortable looking at how much suffering there is going on in the world. Oh, not that these Russians are rascals, Ukrainians are rascals, Israel rascal, Palestine rascal. Not that I comment on the world affairs. That is not devotee. He must change the world's affairs. That is preacher. That's what Prabhupada did. He went and preached. Of course, there is comment, but comment means to give the solution. Give the solution, and then one must have systems in place where this solution can be implemented at ground level. We can say, people should become Kṛṣṇa conscious. Not enough. Establish a temple there and make sure people can come and take advantage of Shravan Kirtan process, everything they can learn. Not that, everybody have to chant Hare Krishna. Fine, then how will they chant if there is no association of devotees? So it established temples. Now who will do? Some devotees, some full-time devotees will do now. Somebody will do. Not me. Don't ask me. This attitude, how? Who will be that someone? Somebody who can fight with his parents and come out of his home. I cannot do so. I will just be comfortable in my place. No, we have to think that we have to preach. We have to go out of the comfort zone. Prabhupada was very comfortable in Vrindavan. He was a pure devotee. There was nothing for him to achieve in this world. He was perfect before he went to America. He was going back to Godhead even if he did not go to America. He came from Godhead anyway. But he took all trouble for us. That is the thinking of a preacher. That's why there is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur song, Kabe Habe Bolo Shedin Amar, that last paragraph in that. He says, Kabe Sudina Hriday. The translation is that when will I become meek and humble and go about preaching this message? To become a preacher, it's not that one has to be this leader and has to talk, I'm the ruler, I'm sitting on the big asana and I'm speaking like a king. No. He has to be actually very humble. Only then he can speak. Because his speaking is not to show off his scholarship. Speaking is to help them understand and help myself. Because by speaking about Kṛṣṇa, I will become purified. And help others. Be of service. Our whole thing, Prabhupada mentioned to one devotee who was complaining always to him. This is problem, that is problem, this is problem, that is problem. And Prabhupada said, then you show the example. What is our movement for? Prabhupada said. And the devotee was, Prabhupada said it is for service. We have to be of service to others. And there we will find happiness. When we serve others. Our position is dāsa, dāsa. Prabhupada said, the people of America are not even 4th class, 5th class, 6th class. But I am 10th class. I am a servant of them. I want to serve them. Prabhupada, he said, I am 10th class. I am a servant of the 5th class man. That is the mood of a preacher, that I must serve them. Preaching is not to condemn people, but to help them raise to the proper standard. Let me become their servant. How Prabhupada can say, he is the topmost man in the universe. Ebejasha Ghushuk Tribhuvana. We are singing every day. Ebejasha Ghushuk Tribhuvana. Whole demigods are singing his glories. Such is the position of a pure devotee. And he is saying, I am 10th class man. I am a servant of the 5th class man. We are thinking, we are big Brahman, Vaishnav, that is Shudra, that is Mlecha, Yavana, Chandal. No, I am a dāsa of Chandal. Of course, a preacher is not a 10th class man. But that is called Trinadapi Sunichena. What is then Trinadapi Sunichena? Humbler than the grass means what then? Even Chandal will step on the grass and the grass will not protest. Only in that mood one can preach. Yes, Divya Mataji is saying, when we remember we are doing service, then there is no agitation. Yes. No, there can be agitation still. Because if I am serving someone and that someone is, going against me, there can be agitation. But that is where one must become titikshavaha and karunika. 3:25-21 Bhagavatam. One has to be tolerant and merciful at the same time. Just before we end, we will just see what is the tolerance of a devotee. 3 verses I will show you. Not this one. Tiraskrata. 118:48. तिरस्कृता विप्रलब्धाः शप्ताः क्षिप्ताः हता अपि नास्य तत्प्रतिकुर्वन्ति तद्भक्ताः प्रभवोऽपि संतुष्ट्या येन केन वा. Right? This tulya ninda stutir mauni. Tulya means equal. Ninda and stuti. Ninda means to insult. Stuti means to glorify. If one is glorified or one is insulted, one has to be same. Now these are not to be imitated, not overnight we can get this, but these are the things we have to work towards. Now, you see, this is tolerance of devotee. Devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. That does not mean if somebody criticizes a devotee, defame a devotee, let us see how good a devotee is. Let him defame and let me see this devotee how good he is. No. I should blast that blasphemer. So, it is not to test the devotee. But for ourselves, we must be like this. Then next verse. Now this is even more graphical description. Let us see Rishabdev, how he was tolerant. This is Sanskrit is very long. It is not even a verse, it is a prose. It is just like a sentence, long sentence. So, Rishabdev, after he was a king, he was of course incarnation of Kṛṣṇa. Then he instructed his 100 sons and he left as Avadhuta. And this was his life then. Rishabdev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests and hermitages. Wherever he travelled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble, but he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. How one can be not angry? But actually, if you see the word Trinadapi Sunichena, this is exactly what it means. You can urinate on the grass, you will not say anything. That's why if to really understand the Trinadapi Sunichena word, we have to see these words, then we will understand what is that Trinadapi Sunichena. And then the last one, 11 to 59, I think, 58, 59. क्षिप्तो वमानितो सद्भिः प्रलब्धो सूयतोऽथवा ताडितः सन्निरुद्धो वा वृत्त्या वा परिहापितः निष्ठ्युतो मूत्रितो वाग्न्यैर्बहुधैवं प्रकम्पितः श्रेयस्कामः कृच्छ्रगत आत्मनात्मानमुद्धरेत्. Even though neglected, insulted, ridiculed or envied by bad men, or even though repeatedly agitated and by being beaten, tied up or deprived of one's occupation, spat upon or polluted with urine by ignorant people, one who desires the highest goal in life should, in spite of all these difficulties, use his intelligence to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. That means we should not be agitated by these things. Even if people do these kind of things to us, we should not be agitated. And how? Like Haridas Thakur, like I did a TikTok recently. He said, what is that? खंड खंड होय देहो जाय जदि प्राण तबु आमी वदनेना छाड़ी हरिना. Even if my body is cut to pieces and my life leaves my body, I will not leave the chanting of Hare Krishna, no matter what. And only when we are focused on that, then our focus from this can go out. It's not that, oh, I should be tolerant. No. Because our focus will go somewhere. If I have a pain in my body, a small mosquito bite, it can be maybe at the back of my head. My attention will always be there. Oh, this thing. Or ant bite, or whatever. If I have some cut somewhere, my attention always will go there. So our focus will always go to that place. Prabhupada gave this example. When we have some injury, our attention, we have a headache, our attention will always go there. He said that is exactly how a devotee's attention will go always to Krishna in the heart when he is in devotion. Premanjana Chorita Bhakti. So basically we have to be focused on the chanting and hearing. Then only we can understand that we are not the body. The body may be beaten, the body may be killed, whatever. In fact, Prabhupada said, what to do if I think some devotee asked, what to do if when danger comes? No, Prabhupada said, devotee just sees the danger as Krishna. Krishna has come in like this, because Krishna said, Mrityu sarvaharas chaham, I am death. So when death stares at the face, Krishna has come. This is Krishna. Easier said than done. If Krishna wants to take me in this way, take my life out. So just chant Hare Krishna even at that time. If Krishna wants to save, he will save, but not pray to him for saving me. Krishna, what you want to do, you do. But let me remember you. If I die now, let me die remembering you. For that reason one chants, a devotee chants Hare Krishna at the time of death. Not that, oh Krishna, I am dying, please save me. That is not proper devotee. Because 5:19:14. If we did not understand that, what? Second chapter we have not understood. Bhagavad Gita. Oh, second chapter basic, Bhagavad Gita basic. Yeah. When death comes, then we will see how basic we are. 5:19:14, you see. यथैहि कामुष्मिककामलम्पटः सुतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् शङ्केत विद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययाद् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. Materialists are generally very attached to their present bodily comforts and to the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Therefore, they are always absorbed in thoughts of their wives, children and wealth, and are afraid of giving up their bodies which are full of stool and urine. What are we attracted to? We want to keep this body which is full of stool and urine. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, however, is also afraid of giving up his body, what is the use of his having labored to study the Shastras? It was simply a waste of time. That means, what stage we have to come to? If you are reading, oh Prabhu, I am reading a little bit. What are you reading? Once I asked, the devotee, so-called senior devotee, he told me, Prabhu, oh, I don't see you reading. I asked, do you read? I just wanted to know. I don't know why I was so much of a pokey nose, but I asked like that. Because I was getting a bit irritated by the behavior of that person, because obviously he is not reading. So anyway, I just asked. I am also not actually well behaved. I'm talking all this, but I'm a rascal myself. So anyway, so I asked like this. So he said, no, I'm reading. What you read? Morning we do the nectar of devotion. Oh, that's all. Facebook, some quotes. This kind of micro reading will not help. Sometimes when nobody is here, we don't even read. But actually, I would always like to read even if nobody is there. Personally, I would not stop reading even if nobody is there. I am alone. I will read, because at least something will go. Better than nothing. Reading. But that kind of reading will not help. That much, very minimal, and how much our attention was there. Maybe I was thinking of something else when the devotee was reading, and I lost it totally. Shrinvan supathan vicharana paro bhaktya vimuchye naraha. You must do not just reading for reading's sake. Prabhu, I clocked in time in, time out. I read. This is not the thing. Shrinvan, reading or hearing. Supathan, revise it. Remember it, what you have learned. Oh wow, today I have learned this lesson. Then vicharana. Do you think about it? Even other times when you are not hearing. So that is called proper hearing. To contemplate on what we have heard. Not just I heard and it went out, and then inside did not process. From this year to this year, nothing went, no processing happening between the years. That is useless. Straight in and out, and no use. We can just test ourselves how much we are of a Vidwan. If now somebody comes and attacks me and kills me, am I ready? What will I be thinking? How Parikshit Maharaj took his death, 7 days notice, instead of getting second opinion from somebody. When we get, oh, you are going to die in 3 months of cancer or something, or second opinion. Arey, first opinion, you go to the devotees and hear Bhagavatam. 3 months, okay, let me just hear. And this is at least I know how much I have. But whether we know or not, we know for one thing for sure, our time is decreasing. That much we know. So why will I want to waste? If today was my last day, will I be doing many of the things that I am actually doing today? Not probably. Because the focus is entirely on Kṛṣṇa, at least I would hope so. So I should think, I should chant. So I should think like that. If I am going to die today, am I going to do this, am I going to do that? So these should be our thoughts as devotees. Constantly being reminded of the reality of life, not in some, dreamland. Oh yeah, I am chanting now. Beads are in the hand, beads are on the neck, tilak is there on forehead. I am devotee. What kind of nonsense is that? So, 11 to yeah. Okay, the Rajikishore Guru is posting a couple of verses. So 4:30:35. Okay, just we'll see those verses before we wrap up. It's already quite late. यत्रेड्यन्ते कथामृष्टास् तृष्णायाः प्रशमो यतः निर्वैरं यत्र भूतेषु नोद्वेगो यत्र कश्चन. Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. If we have to remain like this as devotees at all times, if we want to have good relationship with devotees and not envious and this suffer from anxiety or fear, this is what we are doing. Always discussing Krishna consciousness. And the other verse Rajikishore quoted was this one, that sudushaham imam manya Atmanyasadatikramam vidushamapi vishvatman prakritirhi baliyasi rite tvaddharma niratan shantam ste charanalayan. O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong, and therefore it is very difficult even for learned men to tolerate the offences committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotees who are fixed in your loving service and who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet are able to tolerate such offences. So yes, this is only possible for advanced devotees, this kind of tolerance. But that does not mean, and this is for Prahlad Maharaj, no. Prahlad Maharaj story, yes, Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Narsimhadev. I will remain, I am a third class, no, I will remain a third class. Right? That's not the idea. Yes, it is for advanced devotees. So if I am advancing, or if I want to advance, if I am at all interested in my advancement, I should check against this standard, how much close I am to the standard, or how far away I am. So we have to evaluate. So, yes, the standard of a pure devotee is one thing, and I am not on that standard. But if I have no visibility of where is the destination, I would not know whether I am good enough or not. And a person who knows the destination will always think he is not good enough, and that is the symptom of a proper devotee who is good enough. When a devotee thinks he is good enough, he is not good enough. When he thinks he is not good enough, he is good enough. Not good enough, but at least on good. Not good enough. Good enough means when he completely thinks he is a rascal. That is only pure devotee. It is this. Sarvottam apana ke hina kori mane. Although pure devotee standard is above all, he still considers himself to be in the lowest stage of life. Whereas the lowest Chandal, Naradham, he will think he is on the highest Narottam. He thinks he is Narottam. Whereas the Narottam will think he is Naradham. This is the paradox. Alright, I think I will stop it here. Thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanand.